What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to unveil the next step of our phase 2. But I'm going to take you through a process of how we came about getting there. I cannot thank the entire community enough for the efforts that you guys have put forth in really making an impact on the future of this community. What we started with in the Vision 117 were a couple of phrases. For one, the Vision 117 process was designed around honoring our past, but looking to our future. Went in intense detail about the strength of our educational history, of the proud Jacksonville history of education. Next, we knew that doing nothing was no longer an option. So the referendum passed, we raised the sales tax money, and now we're on with Turner. Before I get any further in phase 2, I want to do a little bit of an update on the Turner project for those people that have not gone on to Vision 117 and seen the new plans for Turner. Going along with that, visit vision117.com. The PowerPoint presentation tonight will be on there. That's on there and much more. Almost anything involved with this process is you have access to. Turner project, I just went over that. Most recent update, the last board meeting, Holland Construction Company has been hired as the construction manager. Very well-respected construction managing company with a long list of wonderful projects. And BLDD and Holland are currently in the middle of working on the designs to get the bids prepared, to get the bids out. That process will take place throughout the fall. We'll get all the bids in, we'll approve them, write up the contracts, and get people in the spring starting working on the building. It's an exciting time. How long has it been? 32, 35 years since we've built something in this community? We're building. Teachers are going to hear next Thursday we have a theme for this school year. This is the year we build. And there's much more than that about building our curriculum instruction systems, a lot more. But it goes right along with the physical aspect of building. But let's get an update on the bond sale. I love it when good news comes in. And then it frightens me. Because the bond people came in and they said, we did the feasibility study. And when we passed the sales tax originally, it was a $24 million maximum capacity for what we could sell our bonds. That's why the building was limited to a $24 million building, fit in with Turner. Then they did the feasibility study. Said we could raise more. We sold $32 million in bonds last June. We can sell 5 to 10 million more next year. Now, let me explain this, because I've been told this by a couple people. The people who are in the bond market, people who are in investing, understand what's going on here, but people who don't, this might come across the wrong way. All the revenue stream is the sales tax. Due to the fact that we have an extremely low interest rate, due to the fact that the predictions of the sales after the 2008 recession were not as low as originally put into the calculations. And due to the fact that with the extremely low interest rate, we started looking at a 25-year bond instead of a 20-year bond, all those things meant for the exact same community investment, we were able to raise a lot more money. So when it comes out that we have sold more bonds than originally planned, I can already sense some people saying, how's that going to affect me and my taxes? Not at all. Is that straight? That's a very important point. The investment that the community gave to the school district with the sales tax is ending up coming out with more money than originally planned. That's a good thing. Our option with that money was to stick with the $24 million bond and then get extra money every year, or to use that all as payment on a larger bond sale, to take out a larger loan. We decided to go the direction of taking out the larger loan because the last thing on earth we want to do is every year get in an extra $300,000 or $400,000 and spend it on repairs and upkeep that don't have a major impact on the community, and then we turn around 5, 6, 7 years from now, and we've got buildings in the exact same shape, but we wasted all of that money. The metaphor I've been using is, if you've got an old car that's fallen apart, you get to the point where you make the decision, do I continue to put $500, $1,000 into upkeep and repair on this old car? And then a year from now, I'm going to look back and still have an old car. Or do I decide to take out a loan and buy a new one and control my monthly costs? That's kind of analogous to the decision we went through. We have not had an opportunity for a major investment in this community in over 30 years. And now we do. So we sold $32 million in bond, and we capped it at $32 million. Then it all came back. We actually could have easily sold 37. So we can sell 5 to 10 million more with another method. Won't cost the taxpayers anything next year. Oh, substantial percentage of the investors were actually local investors. Edward Jones came and spoke to us, Jamie, and was just raving about the commitment and the investment by the local investors in Jacksonville into this project. It really was an excellent, that's another part of our community partnership. Now it's the scary part. What do we do with your money? The last thing on earth I want to do is get right now an extra $8 million of your money and not spend it wisely. With the state of our buildings, I can make $8 million disappear. And 2 years from now, you'll look back and you'll not even know you ever had it. We can't do that. So we started a process of analyzing what's next. We have the rare opportunity to make a major impact on this community. We've got to do it wisely. Okay, where do we start? Well, the first question we went through in the solution tree was pretty obvious. We've already started on the junior high. What are our other two options? Elementary or high school? Correct? That was the first question we went through. The elementary or high school, where do we start? Jacksonville High School. Most recent facility. Most recent facility, 1982. This is it. If you've not been in our elementary schools or been in Turner, this looks amazing compared to our other buildings. It had, when we did Division 117 plan, by far the highest educational adequacy. This was the only building that was at a satisfactory ranking for that. It has a comparatively low expected costs moving forward compared to many of our elementary schools. For instance, one of our elementary schools, we've been speaking about the heat system needs completely repaired, and we've had bids in the $700,000 to $900,000 range. Correct, Craig? We don't have that type of bids here when we're talking about the scale also. Yes, Craig, you did just mention that we have a battery issue and we've lost those 3 lights up there. That's not to the level of issues we're talking about with our other schools. So from that, folks, where do we start? Come to the conclusion, we've got to start with those elementary buildings. We have anywhere from $8 to $18 million extra to talk about spending right now without an extra investment from the taxpayers. $18 million on this building will make an impact, not that wow factor impact, and then all of our money would have been invested and those elementary schools would sit there looking in the state they're in. We can't do that. So next question. Here's the big one. And this is the one I'm almost frightened to talk about in this room. Because I know from the last year and the data that the people that are coming to these meetings typically have a strong view one way on this. Attendance centers versus neighborhood schools has an impact, makes a major difference in the decision. Reminder, there is not one of our current elementary schools that can house 2 complete district grade levels by size. We're averaging about 250 students a grade level. There is not one of our current elementary schools that can comfortably house 500 students. When the 6th graders leave the buildings and go to Turner, we have K through 5. We've got 6 elementaries. We could do an attendance center model if the kids are changing buildings every year. Nobody wants that. That is absolutely detrimental to any educational flow. That's not in their best interest. That's not in the community's best interest. Nobody's moving to a community where you go, where's my school? Well, you have 6 of them you're going to be going through. You have 3 kids, they're going to be in a different building every year. You have different PTOs, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, no. Attendance centers, here's the positives from them. Supported by the Vision 117 committee. I should put on there, also originally strongly supported by your superintendent. That was my big thing. Got to go through the analysis. And the community engagement people. The people who came to the nights we had the community engagement focus, strongly supported by those groups. And definitely have an educational value. If we could find a way to get all of our 5th graders together and our 4th graders together, it's definitely going to have an educational value. But here's the negatives. One big attendance center for them is going to cost about $55 million. It was about the exact same cost for 2 attendance centers, let's say a north and south or an east and west. That's without the land. I recently, for some reasons, investigating several options, went and looked all around Jacksonville, met with real estate agents to talk about the size of land that would take this building. Do you know what the recommended educational value size of a land is for this type of building? Minimal, 35 acres. Do you know how many plots of land are for sale that are 35 plus acres that are in a way that people want to routinely get to? We found 4. And I would say only 1 of them was in a spot that would be a showpiece for the community, and the price on that land, understandably, I'm not going to say anymore, it was very high. JDC grounds, people brought up, well, the baseball court area through that's 17 acres. It's about half the size of what we would need. So we're not even adding the land value and then putting sewage and electrical and everything into that land. So we're talking probably a couple million on top of the $55 million purchase, and maybe not being in a prime spot. The extra bond money is $18 million, so that's where I'm saying to do that we would need $30 to $40 million. And we would have gone to the property taxpayers and asked them for their maximum bonding potential, and then we'd have had nothing for our other building, for the high school, for a long time. What did the taxpayers say with the phone polling? Remember this one? Anybody involved in this process? When we showed them the dollar amount of how much this was going to affect their monthly property or the yearly and monthly property tax bill, 77% of people said no. Previous question is, would you support this for the school? 56% of the people said yes. Then we said it's going to cost you this much. 77 went no. This was a wake up. Next, there is a split, larger community support for the attendance center versus neighborhood school model. If you go speak with people away from everybody else, you're going to find a shocking number of people that still like their neighborhood schools. And the phone polling supported that. Replace all 6 elementary schools with 2 new grade center schools. 48% of the people were opposed. The concern is that if we got to the point to go out and ask the taxpayers for a referendum of $30 to $40 million, we've got 77% of the people saying they're not interested in that due to economics, and almost 50% of the people against that due to the model. Sorry, folks. Came to the conclusion at that point in time, it's just not a viable option at this time. Renovate all 6 elementary schools, bringing them up to modern educational standards. 66% of the people in the phone polling were in favor. Some of those people might have preferred an attendance center, but they could at least tolerate this. And last, this is the one that finally did it for me, is that if the community could raise that type of money, would it be best to invest it in an elementary center and then leave the high school hanging for 25 to 30 years, or 20 to 25 years? We would have no bonding potential with the community at all until those bonds were paid off 20 to 25 years from now. There'd be no investment in the high school at all in that time frame. When there's a way we could make the investment in the separate elementary schools and then hopefully talk to the community about that investment in the high school in the future. If we have a 25-year vision, getting a big bond, investing it in the high school at this point in time doesn't get us there. Note, renovating our existing elementary buildings is more cost-effective than expanding a building and condensing locations. I've had multiple people say, well, can we go to a quasi-attendance center model, say as expand onto South because it's got the big field on the south of it. And then close a school such as Murrayville-Woodson, one of the smaller schools. Later, I'm going to talk about the economic evaluation of that. I'm not talking about impact, nothing else. Just the economic evaluation of that will cost the taxpayers $8 or $9 extra million. $8 or $9 extra million we don't have. Where do we start? Elementary, neighborhood schools. That's the conclusion that I've come to, the recommendation to the board. I'm open, and I think the board will be open for people that can come to us with alternative versions that are viable. But I've done that with multiple people. I've spinned them around. I've played devil's advocate. I don't see any other way at this time. And I don't want to take your $8 million and blow it on repairs and upkeep without having an impact on this community. We need to do that. We need to make a statement that we're moving forward. What can we do with our elementary buildings? You see an old building. What can that really look like? We took tours. Jerseyville East Elementary and Columbia Eagleview Elementary. Both very representative of our buildings. How much? Both of those were done between $5 and $6 million. Complete. New geothermal systems. All new windows. Stripped down. Everything. Done. Between $5 and $6 million. They're bigger schools than ours. We can completely renovate an existing elementary building with just the excess proceeds from the bond sale in June. We've got the money sitting there right now. At this point in time, that's when I realized my recommendation to the board would be a complete renovation of one of our elementary schools. We've got to start making an impact on this community. So where do we begin? That was a lengthy process. We took a lot of issues into consideration. Analysis of locations included the academic need for improvement. The data shows a direct correlation between your academic atmosphere and your academic performance. So we prioritized and looked at our schools with the largest academic need as one factor. The next factor, we looked at the current physical condition of the building. We prioritized that. That was another factor. Cost of required improvements. If a building's heating system was going to go down and we knew we were going to need to spend $700,000 to $900,000 in the heating system, that was definitely a positive in looking the direction towards that building, because all of this is included in that package. Equity. The board gave both myself and the Vision 117 committee a charge to balance needs across this community. This community has had a reputation, I'm not saying it's earned, regardless, has been having a reputation of not balancing needs. Closing Franklin, closing Jefferson. Communities got a reputation about not balancing needs. It's a factor. It's not the final determining factor. Impact to the neighborhood. We want to know that where we do it is going to have impact on that neighborhood, because if every neighborhood in Jacksonville grows and flourishes, all of us flourish. We've got to understand we have a shared partnership in this. And then the impact to the entire community. What location could we have the largest positive impact on the entire community by starting with? This decision included discussions and input from the Vision 117 committee. We met, we discussed about that, we had a discussion. Before I got done about where I was right now, when I listed all that, Mary, that's when all of a sudden people started throwing out a certain school's name. I've had multiple discussions with people that before I've gone any further, they've come up with that name because they understand the one school that's going to fit that criteria the best for this community. Administrators, spoken with teachers, individual board members, not as a group, individually, and representative community members. I've spent a lot of time speaking with people about where to start. Now, I hesitated whether or not I was going to say tonight what I'm going to say next. But I'm usually not smart enough to stop when I get put in that challenge. One reason that we did not have a larger community engagement night to get the community involved is that this community is a wonderful place right now. We're unified as a team about education. I did not want to go through this process and start putting the issue of where to start to become something that's divisive within this community. I wasn't here, but I heard about when it was the closure of a school, how ugly that got about parts of the community fighting against other parts of the community. We don't need that now. We're Jacksonville area, South Jacksonville, Murrayville, Woodson. But we're JSD 117 partners. And I did not want to get to that battle. So what's the recommendation? I will be recommending to the Board of Education at the special meeting on August 12th that we start phase 2 with a complete renovation and overhaul of Lincoln Elementary. What finally did it for a lot of people was the fact that it's not the full determining factor. When you put all those factors into it, location, equity, age of the building, everything, it came down close between Lincoln, Washington, Murrayville, Woodson. Those are probably our 3 schools in the most physical need. But when we talk about the fact that it is the most visible of all of our elementary schools, the positive statement it will make about this community, the amount of people that will see that facility, the fact that when it is completed on football nights, I plan on being there early and giving tours to show people this is what we can do. Look at this building. Because I'll be very honest, I want people to say, how can we do that to all of ours? But I'm going to hold off on that until I can prove it. More on the Lincoln renovation. It will cost, we've already had an estimate, $4.7 to $5.4 million. I always hedge a little bit. $6 million, way on the high side. Hopefully completed by the fall of 2016. Hopefully a year from now, it's done. I think that'll be a positive impact for the community. Future? What's next? Where do we go after that? We will have another large-scale community engagement process after the community sees their new Turner and Lincoln. That's when the community is going to have a very good understanding of what does it want to do moving forward. Before those are completed, it's too early to really start talking about that question. You've got to wait until after they're done. Take the tours so people can get an honest understanding of this is what we can get here in Jacksonville. And I'm also going to bring up the community invested in us for the outcome was Turner. We're going to give them Turner and an elementary school and possibly enough money to do one other elementary school, all for that same investment. The board, this administration, including the cabinet, we take our fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of this community to invest their money wisely, very seriously. But we know we got to fully earn that from the community, that trust, even further. Hopefully when they see the buildings, that trust will grow. And then we'll talk about the future. If you haven't been to vision117.com, it's got a lot of good stuff. It's going to have more tomorrow because I'm going to put that up there. All right, thanks. Any questions?